start. So I'm going to be telling you why you should use PSReadline every day. Basically, the best thing I can tell you is, has there been a time where you type something in on the console, and then 2 weeks later we're like, man, what was that command that I typed in? So PSReadline saves your history, so all of that gets saved in a text file. You can pull it up. I'm going to show you how to do this. First off, thanks to the sponsors. We couldn't do this without them, and also the speakers that are giving their time to present this stuff. A little bit about me. My name is Jeffrey Hayes. I got into PowerShell about 8 years ago when I was working at a place called Hart Hanks, and basically just doing Active Directory administration on behalf of Microsoft for customers' help desk. The daily bread and butter was Exchange Management Console, which if y'all ever done Active Directory, creating users, that's how I got into it. I'm a jack of all trades, master of just get help, get command, and Google. Right? Been at the city of Austin for about 5 years now. Started in the help desk and got up to system administration. Lately, a lot of my jobs have been managing our SolarWinds infrastructure for monitoring of servers, applications, networking, which is really fun because it's getting a lot of different people together on the same page. Also Office 365 and Active Directory administration and various tasks. And I'm about to be a father in 2020 of March, so it's me and my fiance's first kid. So, and I'm pretty much one of the only PowerShell gurus like on my team. Like they're always like, hey, this script, what's it doing? Or hey, can you help me do this? So if y'all want to follow along, go to this link. It's going to take you to the PSReadline GitHub repository. On there, under PSReadline, there is one that says PSReadline sample PSReadline profile. So this right here, back to the other one, basically changes your key bindings so that instead of doing something like, let's see, another one. Hold on. So to the left here, we have the Windows key binding, where if I do get, oh, well, how do I do that?
If you're in presentation mode, you need to hit escape.
Do I have to drag and drop it over there? Ah, okay. That is why. Okay. So this was Emacs, which similar to Emacs Mode for anything. The really awesome thing is if you go up and down, you'll have all your history of the commands. We can change it to Windows, but I'm going to go to the other one that's Windows. So get child item and then tab, right? Normal stuff here. But the awesome thing is if you hit F7, it should have done that. Wonderful. Oh, it's because it popped up on the other screen. You gotta love that. So here's the history of commands that I've typed in recently. So that's just a recent on this machine. But let's go back to the slides.
Was that an out grid view?
What?
The history of commands, was that in like a grid view, or what did it talk
It was an
about?
out grid view, and one of the things I learned is if you upgrade to Windows 7.1, it doesn't have out grid view. So I tried doing that, get errors, and I was like, oh, let's go backwards and not on newer versions. So back to resume slides. So basics of it, what it provides is an improved command line editing experience in the console. You get syntax coloring for commands, visual representation of syntax errors, and better multi-line experience. Custom key binding with set PSReadline key handle. We'll get into that in a second. You have Windows, Emacs, and Vim. I'm just going to discuss Windows and Emacs because if I got in Vim, I'd be stuck there the entire time. Fully customizable. There's so much you can do with this. I'm just scratching the surface. So of course you can read the help. It has a ton of info on it. Let's see. I pull up the help here. Get rid of that one. So, it was introduced in 5.0. Provides a bunch of different things. You have cursor movements. In command mode, N does this. In Emacs, it's End or Control F, and so forth. These will be made after the demo. You can go forward in words. Lots of great things that you can get done with this. That makes it easier to write code in the console. And go back to the demo. These are basically the 5 commands that come with it. This is the sample profile I was talking about. So what I do so that it's always running is I just create a PowerShell profile, which you just start right here, get content-profile. If you don't have anything in it, you don't have a profile. So to force a new one, new item-profile force. If you get that file that I was talking about, save it, just in your scripts directory. And then what I do is something that's probably not best, but I just create a directory, point it to it, and say anything in the directory, load it in the profile. That way it's always there whenever I open it up. So I'll start back. Let's see. So now if you open your profile, it should say something like this. To where, like mine, propagates PowerShell Saturday environment loaded. Yay! So on one of the first commands, it's get PSReadline option. Tells you the editing mode up top. Emacs is similar, very much like Bash and the key bindings. Another cool thing is they have an Audible Sound. So if I open up the, let's see, mode here, I'll go back. And unmute the actual speakers here. And if I do, okay. Gotta love it when demos never work right. But you'd get an audible ding, which is really helpful at times because then you're like, oh, I hit the backspace button one too many times and you can't go back any further. So let's jump back. All right. So on get PSReadline key handle, this is basically telling you what all the key bindings are. For the defaults, would be bound. Anything that's unbound that they have functions built into it would be unbound. And I look at all of the examples. So you can see like all of the different types. They have editing of commands. So Windows, Enter, Shift Enter, pretty much all common things that you've used in PowerShell and how to navigate the console. The things that I like about it is you get one where it's Control and left key, it goes to the next word. So it's super helpful if you have a long command and you're at the very end and you're like, oh, I just need to change the user's name in the script that you're running. Let's see. Yeah, that worked. Cursor movements, difference between Emacs and Windows. You can see a lot of them are very similar. On the Windows one, some are unbound. You can add it to it. I made a couple of custom ones for this that we'll get into in a second. And feel free to stop me if anyone has questions. All right, so we can demo some of the differences here. All right, is this guy gonna load? back. Okay. This is the Windows one. So get PSReadline key handler. This is all of the ones. On the bottom it says user defined functions. I added two. Just Control Alt and C. I'm hitting those on my keyboard. And it's going to open somewhere. Of course, but other screen. Alright, so that opened that up in just, default web browser. You can change this up to do anything, and to set that, what I did was, right here. So set PSReadline key handler. You give it a key, you give it the constraints. I did Control Alt and C. Brief description, open PowerShell Saturday. And then under it, what this is saying is revert line, insert. A couple of gotchas. If you don't have the double quotes in this, it will not work. I'm just telling it where to go. And then the accept line is basically like hitting enter. This is a bit more advanced, but this is what you can do to it. On your history file, one of the big things that's been going on is if you have secure strings that you're passing, sometimes you might not want to put that in a history file if it's something that you have in, secure text. That's a password or something. So to avoid that, you just add this in here. Simple way of saying, hey, if it's not in plain text, don't add it. So it helps you get rid of, if you're typing a password in the console, which hopefully you're not doing, but people have different practices wherever they're at, and getting things done. So, there we go. So here's F7, hit on a different one. Jump back to this guy. We discussed that, cursor movements, demo, and this email. So one of my favorite functions is Control R.
Yes.
Which, it didn't dawn on me that I have to hit it twice to go backwards. I'd hit Control R, it'd populate the command. I'm like, how do I go backwards? So that was fun. So I can demonstrate that. So where if I type Control R and close on that one, bring this guy over. So you'll see like the search right here. So what this is going to do is whatever you type in word-wise, it's going to look in your history, and if it's like a function or something, it's going to try to find that text that you typed in. So on this one, there should be, So this one I was playing around with earlier today. Is basically trying to change the prompt and the message here, which is what this is doing right here. So I want to change it from Emacs to Windows, right? So I can just go up arrow key and just change the verbiage that's in here. And now it says that. And if I just do the up arrow key again, because I have that history there, it's going to show it and awesomeness. It makes it really easy if you have things that you do daily that you have to run on the console. You can just up arrow key through loads of different things, right? All sorts of stuff. The interesting thing about Emacs Mode is if you try to do control and paste, a lot of the times it wants to add in stuff automatically, and this just might be something because I'm using the PSReadline Profile sample one, but it often, let's see, because it's trying to add in parentheses, and it basically doesn't let me put it all in there. Windows one, not a problem. So those are just some of the gotchas to be aware of. All right. right side. Oh, no, go back. All right, the other one is control and space. This is similar to tab, but it gives you more of the options that show up in it. So if we go back to here, so get, and if I do control space, it's going to auto-populate it, but what if I don't know of all the parameters that are required for it? It's going to, no, why didn't you do that? Hey, there's that Audible Sound I was talking about. See, errors in real time. Okay, so similar to tab. There we go. But now you see the menu of all the options you can have with Get Child Item. Path, hidden, everything. Really useful if you're trying to learn more about commandlets and everything else. The way that I always learned was just doing get help on everything and just reading the examples. Because there's a lot of great information in the help here. Let's see. So jump back to, all right, that time it worked, yay. So, but basically auto populates. All right, in that history file. Okay. So this basically F7, like I said, it doesn't work in PowerShell 7. But when you run that sample profile, let me show this guy. So that's to basically set your history so anything there is saved and up and down. Right here is the one where it's going, and it's from 27 to, no, don't, okay, cool. It's going and it's saying, hey, any lines of history, let's see what there is, if it's a function or whatnot, and put it in grid view. So with that, of course, other window. All right. Yeah. Okay, cool. Load it up on the screen. I love that. All right, so here's all the stuff I entered. Here we go. Here's a script, the long one. If I can hit control and double click on that guy. Ah, okay. And it just basically loads it into the actual console, which is super handy. All right, so an up arrow key because it's what was in my history last. So, no. And this is just a function that I made to do mailbox exports for Office 365. And let's see if it gives me errors. Well, basically what it's doing is just connected to Office 365 has a Content Protect. This is their portal for doing administrative tasks like email searches and everything else. This is just doing a basic query where it's picking my mailbox and saying, hey, create the query so it can download all that into a PST, because that's how our retention policies are at the city. Very fun. I don't like them. But with that, it's doing the job of it and everything else. And because I already ran this function once in the console, I could just pull it from my history and then reload it and have it there. Because it's not something I'd be doing every second to create it, start the export process, everything like that. It's going to give us the results. We hope. Unable to finish, okay, yeah, it's still running. I put a, in the script up here, we'll see, taking a break, 30 seconds so that it can actually pull it all in. Let's see. But apparently I guess that wasn't enough time. All right. Here's this guy. And demo, like my my history file, like on my normal machine, is rather large, which is crazy. Let's see. But literally everything I've typed in has been there. Yeah. Which, just to go over this, like tons of stuff. But what's helpful about that is like when my boss or someone asks me for, hey, what's that thing you got that report for all the file shares? You know, I can go back and I can say, oh, yeah, here it is, you know, and pull it up. And it makes it easier to not forget what you've done, right? Because how many times has somebody worked on something all day and then leave, and then Monday comes around and you're like, wait, where's that file? Or where's that script? This has saved my butt so many times lately, where I'm doing the same thing, but it's, you know, oh, hey, Jack wanted this info, and then 2 weeks later, Bobby wants the same info. You know, it's so much easier to just set the profile and then just have this all the time. And in the filter line, you can type in what the query was or what you were doing. So, let's see. Oh, we can go back over those key handler things. Let's see. There was one where it was expand aliases. That was helpful. Oh, yeah. Control space, we talked about that one. The miscellaneous functions I really haven't used much of, other than like clear screen, but I'll just use CLS for that. Control A, Windows, of course, will select all. It's probably one of my favorite things on like the Windows version of it, where you can copy and paste stuff into the actual console, whereas if you're in the Emacs one, sometimes it works, sometimes it tells you no. Oh, that was the other profile. And it didn't ever work. Yay! Back to that. Hey, there's a tick. So these are all the ones. And if we do get PSReadline option. Okay, so this is Emacs Mode. This is where the history file is saved. Under save style, they have save incrementally, no save as well. Audible is the bell style. You can change that to visual if you don't like the actual beeps when you type something incorrectly. I like hearing the beeps, so I just leave it there. Let's see. Alt and then % sign, so that will expand aliases. So all I'm typing is Alt and then Shift, of course, because % on here. But super helpful.
That's cool.
Yeah. There's like tons in this that I haven't even touched the surface of. The other nice thing about it is, see how that thing just turned red? So this is basically saying I have an error. Like if I run this, it's going to throw up on me, right? Or not, because it's thinking that there needs to be another parentheses. And if I keep hitting tab, oh yeah. So tab on this will show you the paths. Super nice. So see the users that are on this machine. All right. F1. So F1 pulls up the help. Like, that's super helpful in figuring out, oh, hey, there's a commandlet. I'm not sure the parameters and everything around it. Just hit F1. And it does it out in grid view, which is great. But if you're on 6 or 7, that will give you an error. All right, check it out. It's because it doesn't have out grid view. It's Windows Forms. All right. Ooh, Alt plus Q. No, that's not what I wanted. And so this is all still the Windows mode right here for all of these guys. Shift Control Enter inserts line below. Control and delete will kill a word, moving the text and the cursor. Let's see. And basic, like this is the about help, which is loads of information on how to set this up and everything else. The one thing that I wished it was easier to do is know like what commandlets are different between the two. Because for months I was like, how do I do the control and then arrow? Because it wasn't in here. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's next word, so that's the function. So to set that, Emacs mode, you just do control. No P. And say, let's go back to the functions of this thing. Because it was. Okay, select next word. Insert that one. Should just be able to do the function part. Let's see, change file, remove. Kill word. Ah. Okay, that's what we'll do then. I'm not sure on that one, but the other thing. There's like a lot to this that's awesome, guys. So we do get child item. If I do Alt and then I believe it's period, it gets the argument of the last command I ran. Because get child item, I ran it in C users, that's there. I didn't want profile. And then Alt plus again, which is really useful if you're trying to get something out of the actual console and you want to pass it through to something else. Let's see. But just going up in history, you can see like it. Basically, anything you've typed in there populates. More info, there's the GitHub, and then there's the console, help, and then about on the module, the commands. We already said discuss how to prevent sensitive information from getting into the history file. More info. There's docs here. There's 2 great blog posts that talk about it. This started in the very early. Phil's got a blog, as well as one of my favorite scripters. Dr. Scripto, which is Ed Wilson. Basically, the idea of this stemmed from, hey, there's a problem with the Windows console, and it's how do you make it user easier, right? They wanted to get better syntax coloring in so that they know, hey, if you're, if we jump back here, you can see like, hey, this is yellow instead of just plain text. Helpful visually, being able just to see the differences. Yeah, there's an error, yay. Yeah, more errors. More errors, yay. But Ed Wilson helped on this. It's crazy how far it's come. Like, hey, import module. So, there we go. Error message right here. Or it's just showing you there's an error in the prompt when it's red from white. Control space, more examples. Coloring, like lots of great options that make it easier in the editing mode. And if I hit F7 here, alright, this is the part that I just love because it makes it so much easier just to have literally everything that you've typed in. And it's across PowerShell sessions too. So if you're on the same machine, different sessions, it saves it all in the same file. That default path. Let's go to it. SPC, C, users. I call my machine the name that the machine is. No, is it the right path? No. I'm not sure. Let's find out. You're supposed to tell me when typing. Really, people? Where's that path here again? App data. I am incorrect. And the thing that I learned recently is Windows PowerShell is basically any of the older versions of PowerShell. It says PowerShell, and it's going to be 6.0 and newer. All right. New. Ah, roaming versus local. No, still there.
Microsoft
Windows. Yeah. This is the fun part, guys. Let's see. Windows PowerShell. And there's literally like everything I've typed in this computer since, I've got it. You can change the colors of the console too. With this guy right here. I usually just leave them standard, but I was playing around with it. Literally anything I've typed in gets stuck in there, and it's super helpful. Let's see. Are there any questions or anything you want me to go back over?
You were showing Control R to iterate backwards through your search history before, and do substring searches. I also use Control S to go forward. So if
I See, I learned that. Thank
So,
you.
Yeah, if you reverse with R and then find a substring, something like you type get child item a bunch of times, right?
Yeah.
And then push Control R again, and then if you push Control S, it'll iterate forward through the same thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I use that like all the time to find things.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful. I mean, I didn't even learn new things. Let's see, is that gonna actually do anything? Oh no, because I changed that. Let's see. You got a question there in the
Yeah,
back?
I had a question. Have you ever experimented with like saving your history to either a network share or OneDrive or something like that, so that it doesn't really matter where you're using PowerShell, you have access to your command history?
So I tried that using like OneDrive and GitHub, and I would just get errors because anytime the file would update with something, OneDrive would tell me, hey, you have 2 different versions of this, and it would literally duplicate the file over and over again. So usually what I'll do is anything that is in my history file that I want to pull out, you know, I'll take a morning or an afternoon and just copy that and save it to a function or a script, then load those in if it's something I'm doing repetitively. Any other questions?
If you find a good answer to that, please share.
Yeah, well,
I mean, we have
I found out how much OneDrive hates Git repositories, so I just kind of.
Yeah, I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah, me too.
Like, and then the other thing that I used to save everything to my H drive, which is just network share on my work machine. What ended up happening was when I upgraded from Windows 7 to Windows 10, it was like, hey, your H drive, you can't run scripts from there in the ISE, because that's how I got more into coding on it. So that was super fun, where it just, I'd try to open the file and it's like, no, and I think eventually around it was doing new PS drive. Oh, hey, I'm searching the console. Let's minimize it, maximize. Process, and then the root share. Like this is where like the network name would go. Yeah. But because I'm on a local net laptop off instead of on network. File path. Of course it's gonna give me an error. But basically right here is where I type in the path, the canonical name to the actual H drive, which is just personal drive. We use it at work. We have NetApp storage. It's super fun on network. File path. Of course it's going to give me an error. But basically right here is where I type in the path, the canonical name to the actual H drive, which is just personal drive. We use it at work. We have NetApp storage. It's super fun. Because we get file lock issues because people don't know how to use Excel and not save stuff on there. And there's also a really good video that goes much more into this from PSCon EU, where he basically discusses in greater detail all the advanced stuff. I wanted to stick to basics on this. Not that one. Go back, which is right here, and these will be on the repository afterwards. And here's my Twitter name, email, LinkedIn. Remember, once you set it up, anything you type in there is saved, which is super, like, let's see.
Does it work in the VS Code's terminal?
Mm-hmm. It just doesn't work in the ISE,
Okay.
like, is what they said. But then I opened the ISE and typed the commandlets, and some of them still came. I'm just used to doing things in the console because, like right here, let's see, exit that guy. Where is it? Oh, F12. Studio Code. I wanted the other one. I literally delete it. No. Alright. I was trying to drag an icon over, now I can't find it. You're gonna love that. We have two-factor authentication for Office 365. So when I go to log into like the Office 365 administration portal, it's already on PowerShell 5.0, so PS Line's already there. So anything I've typed in with like creating new mailboxes and stuff, that's saved.